Hello everybody. Thank you for joining me for another Thought Fuel episode. Today, we're going to be looking a little bit into the future. As engineers, we like to see what's coming down the pipe. What's the new tools, what's the new gadgets, and new technologies that we can work with? Well, Android is making some excellent headway into new device form factors. So today, we're going to dive into those new developments and show you how they can make our jobs as engineers easier and a little bit more fun. So let's get started on device form factors. Now, I wouldn't be too cliched if I told you that the future is fast becoming our present. And us as developers, we're going to find ourselves quickly falling behind unless we stay abreast of these new technologies. Now, these new technologies, in my opinion, have really been fueled around interest around foldable devices. And if you haven't seen a foldable device before, you could think of it as a single device that rolls both a phone and a tablet into a single device. So you could think of a Samsung Galaxy Fold as a great example. They have the first one, the second one, a third one, as well as other competitors which are bringing similar products to market, such as the Microsoft Duo. So as you can see, from this perspective, there's been a lot of innovation around the hardware aspect, but there's also been a lot of innovation around the software aspect of it as well, to make sure that that stays in tandem with the hardware. Now that's really not a surprise when you think about it. Android and phones in general really have always been about the handshake between hardware and software. Now there's a renewed focus on that. So before, if you ever wanted to build an app that, say, targeted both a phone and a tablet, you could create an emulator for both of them, and really the rest of it was up to you. There was some vague guidance about what it should look like, but as far as how you actually went about that process, it was kind of like, well, good luck, it's up to you. That landscape, thankfully, is quickly changing. The very first device type that I'd like to talk about are foldables. Google now has emulators which officially mimic the functionality of a foldable device. And really, it's just a generic device that simply has a hinge. So whenever you create a foldable emulator for the first time, it starts up as a tablet, and you have the option to change it to a phone. And you can do that with a new button that's on the side of the emulator. This allows you to change what's called its posture. You can change the hinge angle, which once you close it or open it up to a certain point, it'll switch between the phone posture, and it'll open it up the whole way, it'll switch back to the tablet posture. And again, you can think of this as mimicking the Samsung Galaxy Fold family of devices. And really the whole point of this is to see how does your app work whenever it has to switch between a phone and a tablet? Does it survive all of those changes that need to be made? This is something new to think about as developers, and now we have the official opportunity thanks to this new emulator type. The second emulator type is a Freeform tablet. Now this is like our old friend the tablet, except instead of having your application being full screen the whole time, they actually can live inside of a window. So the purpose here is actually going to be similar to that of a foldable. We want to see how our application is going to respond to new demands that are being put on it. So all of the applications in here can run just like Windows or Mac OS. They run inside of a window. So that means that you can resize the application, you can maximize it, minimize it, restore it. All those things that you would expect on a desktop, this tablet is intended to emulate. You can think of this as being a better fit for maybe Chrome OS or devices which really don't have a touchscreen but behave more like Windows or Mac OS. You want to see how your application is going to respond to those different resizes and make sure that it fits all those different testing scenarios. This third innovation is definitely my favorite. It's the coupling of Android 12L with resizable emulators. So Android 12L is simply Android 12, just intended for larger screens. So Apple did something similar to this a number of years ago, whenever they broke out iPad OS from iOS. So iOS is intended for iPhones and smaller screens, where iPad OS is intended for tablets and larger screens. Well, this is the exact same solution, just presented from an Android perspective instead. So whenever we couple Android 12L along with their new resizable emulator, we have the option to jump between phones, tablets, and desktop scenarios all within the same exact emulator. We don't have to trade them up all the time. This is really the first time that Google has given us robust tools to care about anything else other than phones. So really, we can now see how an OS which is intended to work with larger screens is going to work with our app. If you wanted to try this out, you're going to have to jump ahead to the Canary version. The current version that we have out right now is Android Studio Arctic Fox. We're going to have to jump 2 versions ahead to Android Studio Chipmunk, or basically their alpha version, to try this out. But it's definitely worthwhile if you want to get a head start on how this looks on larger screens. This is just a preview of what Google is doing to make our lives as Android engineers easier. I definitely recommend that you take the time to get familiar with these tools and see how they behave with applications that you're already developing. They're helping us answer the wave of the future, and investing in time now will certainly pay dividends later on. Thank you for joining me for another Thought Fuel episode. I have new content every Monday at noon exclusively for Android developers. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so. Otherwise, I'll see you next time on Thought Fuel. Thanks, and happy coding!